Mustafa Ben Belade, 1917–1956, was one of the most prominent leaders of the Algerian Revolution against French colonialism. He is considered one of the founders of the National Liberation Front, FLN, and the Revolutionary Committee for Unity and Action, CRU. Born in the Hamanka tribe of the Ouarez Mountains, he joined the political and then the military struggle at a young age. He played a pivotal role in preparing for the outbreak of the Algerian Revolution on November 1, 1954, leading the coordination efforts in the Ouarez region and becoming the military commander of the 1st Region, Ouarez. Among the most significant milestones in his struggle were his arrest by the French authorities before the outbreak of the revolution, but his escape from prison in 1955 and subsequent joining of the revolution, his command of the Battle of Jebel Ahmar Kaddu in 1955. One of the first major counterattacks against French forces, and his role in maintaining the cohesion of the revolution in its early stages. He was martyred on March 22, 1956, when a booby-trapped radio reached him in his hideout, an act believed to have been orchestrated by the French colonial authorities. Ben Belade is considered a symbol of the Algerian struggle, and after independence he was awarded the Living Martyr Medal in recognition of his prominent role in the liberation of the country. Mehmed the Conqueror, Mehmed II, birth, March 30, 1432, death, May 3, 1481, reign, 1444–1446, first period, 1451–1481, second period. Major achievements: 1. Conquest of Constantinople, 1453. He led the Ottoman army in the siege of Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, and captured it after a 53-day siege. He used massive cannons, such as the giant cannon built by the Hungarian engineer Urban, and innovative military tactics. He converted Hagia Sophia into a mosque after the conquest, and the city became the capital of the Ottoman Empire and was renamed Istanbul. 2. Military expansion. He annexed the Balkans, Serbia, Bosnia, Albania, and Greece. He defeated a European coalition at the Battle of Varna, 1444. He expanded Ottoman influence in Anatolia and confronted the Karamanid Principality. He besieged Belgrade but did not capture it, 1456. 3. Administrative and urban reforms. He issued laws regulating the state, known as the Kanunnaime. He encouraged the construction of mosques, schools, and hospitals, and ordered the construction of Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. He attracted scholars and artists to the new capital. 4. Interest in science and culture. He was fluent in several languages: Ottoman Turkish, Arabic, Persian, Greek, Latin, and Serbian. He was interested in military science, arts, and literature. He founded high-level schools in Istanbul. His death: Mehmed the Conqueror died on May 3, 1481, at the age of 49. His death was sudden, and it is believed that he was poisoned. He was buried in Istanbul near the Fatih Mosque, which he built. His legacy: Mehmed the Conqueror is considered one of the greatest Ottoman sultans. He transformed the state into a vast empire, and his conquest of Constantinople ended the Middle Ages in Europe and ushered in the modern era. His title, the Conqueror, is associated with the fulfillment of a prophecy of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, concerning the conquest of Constantinople. Ernesto Che Guevara, 1928–1967, is a controversial historical figure, remembered as a symbol of revolutionary and liberation struggle in the 20th century. This is followed by a balanced analysis of the most prominent stages of his life and his influence, aspects of his life and legacy. 1. The revolutionary struggle. Guevara was one of the most prominent leaders of the Cuban Revolution, 1956–1959, that overthrew the Batista regime. Later, he sought to export the model of armed revolution to other countries, most notably Congo and Bolivia, where he was killed. 2. Global symbolism. His image turned into a global icon representing the spirit of rebellion and sacrifice for principles among broad sectors, especially in the left and student movements around the world. His image is used in a variety of contexts, from political protest to popular culture. 3. Declared principles. Adopted a discourse focused on fighting imperialism, especially American, and neo-colonialism, and calling for social justice and international solidarity. Critical viewpoints. 1. Approach and policies. He is criticized by historians and writers for adopting the method of armed war as the only solution, and for his role in establishing security services in Cuba after the revolution, which were linked to human rights violations against opponents. 2. Economic application. He held a high position in the Cuban economy in the early 1960s, and his industrial policies are the subject of study and criticism by economists for their practical results. Conclusion. Che Guevara represents a complex historical problem. As a symbol, he transcended the historical man to become a powerful symbol of sacrifice and revolution in the collective imagination. As a historical figure, his thought, behavior, and direct influence are subject to sharply contradictory historical and political evaluations, ranging from reverence to scathing criticism. A complete understanding of Guevara remains impossible without considering these two dimensions: the legendary icon on the one hand, and the controversial revolutionary who lived in a precise historical context, the Cold War, the conflict in Latin America, on the other. Interpretations of his legacy vary radically depending on the political and cultural perspective of the recipient. Umar ibn al-Khattab, may God be pleased with him, was the second of the rightly guided caliphs, one of the 10 promised paradise, and one of the most prominent and closest companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. He was given the title Al-Faruq because God used him to distinguish between truth and falsehood. Key milestones in his life and achievements include: 1. His conversion to Islam. His conversion was a great victory for Islam, as it marked the transition from secret preaching to open proselytizing. 2. His caliphate. His caliphate lasted 10 years, 13 to 23 AH 634 to 644 CE. The Islamic State expanded during his reign to include the Levant, Iraq, Egypt, Persia, and other regions. He established the Diwan system, such as the Army Bureau, instituted the Islamic calendar, and founded the cities of Basra and Kufa. 3. His character. He was renowned for his justice, strength, and wisdom. He was an ascetic, often sleeping under trees and fearing God in his dealings with his subjects. 4. His martyrdom. He was stabbed by Abu Lu'lu'a al-Majusi during the Far prayer and died in 23 AH. Among his most famous sayings are: "When did you enslave people when their mothers bore them free?" When he objected to the injustice of some governors. If a mule were to stumble in Iraq, Umar would be held accountable: "Why didn't you pave the road for it?" Umar ibn al-Khattab is considered a model of a just leader in Islamic and world history, and his biography continues to be studied as a symbol of good governance. Abu Bakr al-Siddiq, 573 to 634 CE, was Abdullah ibn Uthman al-Taymi al-Qurashi, the first of the rightly guided caliphs, one of the 10 promised paradise, and one of the most prominent companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Key aspects of his character and role include: 1. Al-Siddiq, the truthful. He was given the title Al-Siddiq, the truthful, because of his unwavering belief in the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, in everything he conveyed, especially after the Isra and Miraj, night journey and ascension, when he believed him without hesitation. 2. Companionship with the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. He was the Prophet's companion before and after the Hijra, migration, and he migrated with him from Mecca to Medina. He participated in all the battles alongside the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, married his daughter Aisha, the mother of the believers, may God be pleased with her. 3. His caliphate, 11 to 13 AH 632 to 634 CE. He assumed the caliphate after the death of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, at Saqifa Bani Saida, with the near-unanimous agreement of the companions. He faced the Ridda Wars, fighting the tribes that refused to pay zakat or claimed prophethood, and he preserved the unity of the nascent Islamic State. He initiated the compilation of the Quran into a single volume after the martyrdom of many memorizers at the Battle of Yamama. During his reign, parts of the Levant and Iraq were conquered. His qualities: he was known for his asceticism, humility, justice, and wisdom. He was a wealthy merchant before Islam and spent most of his fortune in the cause of Islam. His death: he died in Medina in 13 AH, 634 CE, after a short illness and was buried next to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. His caliphate lasted approximately 2 years and 3 months. His legacy, Abu Bakr, is considered a symbol of steadfastness in Islam and dedication to serving the cause. He established a caliphate system based on consultation and justice, and laid the foundation for Islamic expansion and the preservation of the doctrinal and political unity of the Muslim community. This is but a drop in the ocean of the biography of this great companion, about whom the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, said, "No one has done us a favor except that we have rewarded him, except Abu Bakr, for he has done us a favor that God will reward him for on the day of resurrection." Mufti Zakaria, 1908–1977, is a great Algerian poet, writer, and mujahid. He is considered one of the most prominent symbols of Algerian poetry and literature in the 20th century, and one of the heroes of the national movement and the liberation revolution. The most important stations of his life and achievements: 1. Political and revolutionary activity. He joined the North African Star Party and then the Algerian People's Party. He was an active member of the Association of Algerian Muslim Scholars. He was arrested many times by the French colonial authorities because of his political activity and patriotic writings. 2. Literary and poetic production. Poet of the Algerian Revolution. He was given this title because his poetry was a mirror of the Algerian struggle, telling the suffering of the people and arousing enthusiasm for the struggle. An Oath, the Algerian national anthem. He is the writer of the lyrics for the official national anthem of Algeria, which begins with, "An Oath" by the devastating Nazilat, the epic Iliad of Algeria. It is a long poem, 1,000 lines, in which it tells the history of Algeria's struggle, and it is considered one of his greatest works. The collections, The Holy Flame and Under the Olive Shade, are among his famous poetry collections. 3. Cultural and intellectual activity. He was a journalist in several national newspapers, such as Al-Basair, affiliated with the Association of Scholars. He contributed to shaping national awareness and Algerian identity through his writings. Some of his immortal poetic verses, from his poem Algeria, which shook the Algerian and Arab conscience, "In the people you are, and in the high mountain, and in the plain, and in the humble book, in all its splendor, eloquence revives. In the womb, the dream of the eyes and the return of the songs, you are Algeria, you are the glory, the heritage, the truth, the tolerance, and the carpet." His death. Mufti Zakaria died on August 17, 1977 in Tunisia, and was buried in his hometown of Beni Yazguin, Gardia, in Algeria. Mufti Zakaria remains an eternal national and literary symbol, as he chose to make his poetry a weapon in the battle to liberate the nation and build its cultural identity. Uthman ibn Affan, may God be pleased with him. A brief overview. Uthman ibn Affan ibn Abi al-Az ibn Umayyah al-Umawi al-Qurashi, the third of the rightly guided caliphs, and one of the 10 promised paradise. He was born in Mecca in 47 BH, 576 CE, and died in 35 AH, 656 CE. He was known by the kunyas Abu Abdullah and Abu Amr. His most important qualities and characteristics: Dhu al-Nurayn, possessor of the 2 lights. He married 2 daughters of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, Ruqayya, then Kulthum after Ruqayya's death. Memorizer of the Quran, he was one of the companions with the most beautiful voices in reciting the Quran. Generosity and munificence, he was known for his abundant spending in the way of God. Modesty, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said about him, "Should I not be shy of a man from whom even the angels are shy?" Notable achievements during his caliphate in the field of the Holy Quran: compilation of the Quran into a single codex, the Uthmanic Codex. Copying and sending multiple copies to Islamic regions. Islamic conquests, extension of conquests into North Africa. Conquest of Cyprus. Expansion of conquests into Persia. Construction of the first Islamic naval fleet. Construction projects, expansion of the Prophet's Mosque. Expansion of the Grand Mosque. Digging wells and building roads. Causes of strife and the end of his caliphate, the emergence of some differences of opinion in various regions. Discontent among some Muslims regarding the actions of some governors. The siege of his house by protesters. His martyrdom while reciting the Quran in his home. Lessons and insights from his life, piety and God consciousness in governance. The importance of documenting and compiling the Holy Quran. Endurance. Patience in the face of adversity. The role of generosity and spending in the service of Islam. Uthman ibn Affan is considered a model of the ascetic and generous caliph, who made many achievements for Islam and Muslims despite the challenges he faced at the end of his caliphate. Ali bin Abi Talib, may God be pleased with him, is a pivotal figure in Islamic history, and one of the greatest companions and the closest to the Prophet Muhammad, may God bless him and grant him peace. Here are the most important stations in his biography. Basic information: his name, Ali bin Abi Talib bin Abdul Muttalib al-Hashimi al-Qurashi. His birth: he was born in Mecca around the year 600 AD, 23 before the Hijra, in the interior of the Kaaba, according to historical accounts. His relationship to the Prophet: the cousin of the Prophet Muhammad, may God bless him and grant him peace, the husband of his daughter Fatima al-Zahra, may God be pleased with her, and the father of al-Hassan and al-Hussein, two grandsons of the Prophet. His conversion to Islam and his virtues: he is considered the first boy to convert to Islam, and it was said that he was the first Muslim after Khadijah, and he lived under the care of the Prophet since his childhood. He was one of the writers of Revelation, and one of the most knowledgeable companions about the Quran and jurisprudence. He was famous for his courage and horsemanship, as he was one of the most prominent commanders in the battles of Badr, Uhud, Khandak, and Khaybar. His succession: he assumed the caliphate after the killing of Uthman bin Affan, may God be pleased with him, in the year 35 AH. He faced major challenges during his caliphate, most notably, the Battle of the Camel, 36 AH, against Talha, al-Zubair, and Aisha. The Battle of Siffin, 37 AH, against Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, which ended in arbitration. The emergence of the Kharijites and the Battle of Narawan, 38 AH. His martyrdom: he was treacherously killed by Abd al-Rahman bin Muljam, a Kharijite, while he was praying in the Kufa mosque in the year 40 AH, 661 AD. He was buried in Najaf, Iraq, where his shrine became an important religious center. His status and heritage: according to the Sunnis, the fourth of the rightly guided caliphs, one of the 10 promised paradise, and a symbol of justice, knowledge and courage. Among the Shiites, the first Imam, the successor of the Prophet by text, infallible and an ideal example of piety. His intellectual heritage: his sermons and words were collected in the book Naj al-Balagha, compiled by al-Sharif al-Radi, and he is considered one of the eyes of Islamic literature and philosophy. One of his famous sayings is, "People are enemies as long as they are ignorant, knowledge is better than money." Knowledge protects you and you guard money. His historical lessons: his life embodies values such as asceticism, faith, and sacrifice. The period of his caliphate represents a turning point in Islamic history from unity to political pluralism. This great personality remains a symbol of Islam in its greatness and diversity, and always reminds us of the importance of wisdom, justice, and sacrifice for the sake of principles. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, ca 602–680 AD, is a pivotal figure in early Islamic history, and founded the Umayyad dynasty that ruled the Islamic world for nearly a century. Here is a balanced view that includes his achievements and different points of view about him. His achievements and positive role: 1. Establishing and expanding the Umayyad state. He united the Islamic world under central rule after the period of strife, and established a strong administrative system. He completed the Islamic conquests in North Africa and Asia Minor. 2. State organization and administration. He developed the Diwan al-Kharaj, financial system, and the Diwan al-Risala, administrative affairs. Establishing an organized postal system for good communication between all parts of the country. 3. Building naval power. He created the first Islamic navy, which enabled the conquest of Cyprus and Sicily. 4. Politics and governance. He followed a soft policy with opponents on many occasions, and was known for his forbearance and politics. It was said, if it had not been for Muawiyah's dream, the strife would have been greater. Controversial points about him: 1. His succession and the transformation of the political system. The caliphate turned into a hereditary monarchy with the transfer of power to his son Yazid, a transformation that was criticized by many historians and scholars. 2. The conflict with Imam Ali, may God be pleased with him. He led armed opposition against the fourth Caliph Ali bin Abi Talib, which led to the Battle of Siffin, 657 AD. This conflict was a turning point that led to deep divisions in the Islamic nation. 3. Establishing some controversial political practices, such as codifying the system of political loyalty through gifts, which some see as purchasing deaths. Extensive appointment of his relatives to important positions. Historical viewpoints, the traditional Sunni vision, presenting him as a companion, a revealed writer, and a legitimate caliph with great achievements, while recognizing that he is a human being who makes mistakes. The Shiite view, it sees that his caliphate usurped the right of the family of the Prophet, and holds him responsible for the internal conflicts. The modern historical vision analyzes his personality as a realistic statesman who was able to build a system to rule a vast nation with all its diversities. Conclusion: Muawiyah is a complex character who cannot be reduced to a hero or a villain. He was an accomplished statesman, who contributed to building a strong and organized Islamic state, but some of his political choices had long-term effects on the Islamic political system and on inter-Muslim relations. Understanding his personality requires looking at the context of his difficult era after the Great Strife, and at the various historical sources that dealt with him from different perspectives. Uqba ibn Nafi al-Fihri, 622–683 CE, was one of the most famous military commanders in early Islam and a leader in the Islamic conquest of North Africa. He belonged to the Quraysh tribe and was raised in a military environment, as his father had participated in the early Islamic conquests. His most notable achievements include: 1. Conquests in North Africa. He led military campaigns that extended from Egypt to Morocco, reaching the Atlantic Ocean. He founded the city of Kairwa in Tunisia in 670 CE, which became a cultural, scientific, and military center of Islam in the Maghreb. 2. Westward expansion. He reached regions previously untouched by Muslims, such as the Sahara Desert and the Atlantic coast. It is reported that upon reaching the Atlantic Ocean, he said, "O Lord, were it not for this sea, I would have continued my struggle in your cause." 3. Confrontations with the Berbers and Byzantines. He faced alliances of Berber tribes and the Byzantine Empire in North Africa. His death: Uqba ibn Nafi was killed at the Battle of Tahuta, or the Battle of Biskra, in 683 CE in Algeria, when he was attacked by Berber tribes led by Kusayla, after he had advanced his army far from its rear bases. His legacy: he is considered a symbol of the Islamic conquest of North Africa. The city of Kairwa, which he founded, became one of the oldest and most important Islamic centers in the Maghreb. He is mentioned by many historians, such as Ibn Khaldun and al-Baladuri. Uqba ibn Nafi represents the model of a courageous and adventurous leader who expanded the borders of the Islamic State into Africa, although his rapid advance drew some historical criticism for having advanced without securing his army's rear.